Great. Awesome. Take it away.
All right. So yes, hello everyone. Welcome. Glad to have you here. And let me just get things set up. So we're going to have some materials for this. In the first half, we're just going to be talking about what makes a good portfolio website. How do we distinguish a good one from a not so good one? And in the second half, we'll actually be making one live in Wix. So that requires that you have your browsers. And I'll be sending some materials over here. Just a second. So in case you have like a slow connection, you can start downloading these already. Just a second. There you go. You should see the message in the chat. They're basically some video files, some sample images, stuff like that, which we'll be using in. All right, so let's get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Surya. So I'm a game designer and developer. I've been working in the industry for around 4 years so far. Some people think I have a kind of good portfolio website. And so I've been taking these classes, reaching out to people, helping with portfolio reviews for a couple of years now. And yeah, that's me. I'd love to be introduced to the class. So anyone who'd like to introduce themselves, do type in the chat your name, what's your game vertical, and what stage of your career. Right, I'm going to be sharing my stream shortly. Name and your game vertical. So your game vertical is which aspect of the gaming industry you specialize in. It could be anything. A generalist is someone who does everything. A game artist is someone who makes art. A designer designs games. A game programmer writes the code for them, and so on. Hey, Mike. I'm in marketing and have about 4 years experience. Great to have you here. Like if someone's here in marketing, then what I'm going to say is probably already something you guys know. Hi, Vidya. Narrative designer producer. Nice. Hey, Josh. Graduate from UC Santa Cruz. Nice. Job searching as a game designer and programmer. Right. Hey, Alex. Designer and producer 5 years. Nice. Hey, Wayne. Hi, Tommy. Hi, Lola. Nice. We're getting it. Gameplay programmer. Zach. Hi, Zach. Nice. So we have a really good crowd today. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of game programmers and designers today. Hi, Mattia. Hi, Danny. Hey, Vanessa. Yep. So it looks like we have a couple of new people, couple of people who are in college, still new to game making, and some people with up to 5 or 6 years of experience. So it's a very diverse crowd. It's good. All right, I'm going to get started with a short presentation. Hi, Haley as well. Let me just share my screen. Can I share? Move this window. All right, can everybody see my screen? All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably keep the chat window active here. So I'm just going to be talking about, what are we doing, why are we building a game industry portfolio, and how we're going to go about building it, what considerations we have in mind. Oh yes, blinded, quite a lot of white. Might have to. I typed this up in a hurry, so I didn't give it any nice dark mode backgrounds. So in case you guys have any questions, just type them in the chat. I'll probably answer them during the presentation or at the end. So to start things off, what is a portfolio website? Essentially, this is just the way how you communicate who you are, what you do, and most importantly, it focuses on the projects you've worked on. They're basically text, video, and screenshots that describe all the awesome things that you've worked on. You can think of it a bit like a brag or a brag doc, or like showing off the amazing things that you're capable of as a professional in the game industry. Here, you're pretty much showcasing your best work and best work in your specific game vertical to the public. You could be showcasing it to recruiters, fellow colleagues, potential bosses, and so on. Recruiters are your primary audience. So the key purpose for a portfolio is to allow recruiters to evaluate your experience and your talent in your particular game vertical. I get these questions a lot, so I'd like to convey what is a portfolio website not. So a portfolio website is not a resume. A resume typically just lists your accomplishments. It's meant to highlight your work experience in which companies you worked in and so on. A portfolio website is more about your projects, and you're going to show off exactly what you did and how you did it. A portfolio website can include a resume. You can pretty much have a link to it to download the resume or have a separate page for your resume. And we'll cover that in the building process. The next thing that is not is it's not a list of every single project you ever made since you were 3. Here you want to show just your best work. Typically, if you have a lot of projects, it's good to leave. You can leave a lot of them out. You just need to focus on the best of the best work that you have. Post the work that you would brag about, not just, it's not just a list of everything. And finally, your target audience here is not players, right? You're primarily thinking about recruiters and colleagues. It's not really marketing material for your game itself. Hey, Leonard, nice to see you. So why make one? I know a lot of people who don't make a portfolio website, who just apply to jobs with a resume, like in most other industries, which is fine. I think the game industry has a specific value for portfolios because it is a creative industry, like pretty much whichever field you're in. You have projects, and projects are going to be a strong method of appraisal if you're applying for a job. People want to see what you've worked on, not just know where you've worked and for which companies. I think one key reason is if you have projects that are highly visual, games are pretty visual, and resumes just don't have pictures, right? They have just text. So reading in a dry way that, okay, worked for 2 years on an action adventure game isn't as compelling as opening a portfolio website, seeing this amazing, the graphics and video and screenshots of this game. Then you think, wow, that's cool. I want to know more about this. So I think your projects become a lot more approachable when they're visual on a portfolio. And if you work in the game industry, most likely you have projects that are playable. People can play them, they can evaluate them. And a portfolio is a good way to link directly to something that's playable. Sometimes you can even embed, if it's a browser game, you can embed your playable browser game in your portfolio. Third point is, if you want to include more in-depth information about the process behind your work. So a resume, again, is like to the point. You're just stating where you worked, for how long. You don't have that much space. It's for a quick scan. With a portfolio, you can talk more about your process. People are looking about for your process, how you made it, what steps you went through, work in progress screenshots, and so on. And the other thing is, a lot of people here as well in the class are just starting out in the industry. They might not have a thick resume full of game industry experience, but to get that first job, you still need one. And to get that first job, it helps a lot to have a portfolio, because if you can prove that you can make a game, you know how to make a game, and your games look good, that's often enough to get you hired. You don't need to have years and years of experience just to get the first job, which makes no sense. Right. I'm going to set a timer in my other tab because I have a tendency to ramble on, not run out of time. That Okay, back to the target. Yes, now the next point is, for whom do we make one? The primary target audience, like I mentioned before, are recruiters or employers. And when you're making a portfolio, just like when you're making a game, you need to keep your target audience in mind. So imagine that you're a recruiter. Imagine that you're looking at a portfolio. Putting yourself in the shoes of a recruiter, most likely you are incredibly busy. You have dozens of portfolios to evaluate. Someone in your company has said, okay, we need to hire a new junior developer, new junior artist. And you have like this stack of 75 resumes and portfolios. Look through all of this and tell us who's the best candidate by tomorrow morning. So most likely this recruiter is tired, overworked, has dozens of portfolios to evaluate in a single sitting, and they just want to finish it and get on to doing something better, right? Maybe they want to actually make games, or they want to eat a nice sandwich for lunch. The point being that the recruiter is most often they probably are going to have a very short attention span for your portfolio in particular. They're probably just going to have 2 minutes or so, maybe even less. They're looking to scroll through it as fast as possible. In other words, you really need to have a portfolio that engages their attention in that short span of time. They are also looking actively for specific things that make you a good hiring choice, and you have to focus on showing it to them. They have just a few seconds or a minute at the most to scan your portfolio and to understand whether it's valuable to them or not. And what makes it valuable to them are things that show your awesomeness. And your portfolio has to focus on conveying that above anything else. So the technique here, which I'm outlining, which is what I use to build a portfolio site, is essentially called fishing for recruiters. Hey, Kyle, by the way, from chat, you have a couple of questions. I will come to those right at the end of this. So this is a 3-stage process, fishing for recruiters. Essentially, we're dividing it based on recruiters' attention span. There are 3 stages. The lure, that's when you get their attention, get them to notice your portfolio and actually want to look at it. Second point is the hook. Here's where you actually convince them that your portfolio is worth reading in more detail. And then the reel, when you pull them in, and then you can actually get them to stick on your portfolio for a lot of time. So the secret here is that if your portfolio doesn't lure them in at the first glance, most likely they're just going to skip over it, move to the next one in the pile, and they haven't even seen anything that you've worked on, any of your projects. It's highly likely they'll just be ignored, which is why it's really important to kind of hook their attention right in the beginning. And if you do, then the recruiter is probably more likely to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even longer reading about all of your accomplishments, all of the details, and so on. So for the lure, when a recruiter scans your portfolio, you have around 5 seconds to grab their attention. That's it. In 5 seconds, their brain is going to form a subconscious judgment about whether this portfolio is worth investing more time in or not. Your site needs to look interesting and promising enough for them to want to look deeper after those 5 seconds. So the key point here is, again, that your portfolio has to pitch what they're interested in. And what they're interested in is your projects. They've come here to look at your projects, and they want to see your projects. So they don't want to see tons of text introducing yourself or a long paragraph that they have to read through before they hit your projects. They just want to see your project. And they also, visual appeal also helps. It convinces you that, okay, this is something interesting. It kind of lures the eye to that specific project. You can think of it a bit like marketing to recruiters. You're trying to use videos or screenshots or something alluring or appealing, which will actually kind of grab their eyes and make them want to look at it. So again, visual appeal over text. So essentially, yeah, this converts to project should be immediately visible on the first page of your portfolio or accessible in a maximum of a single click. And the second point is show and don't tell. Keep text concise, add more visuals like GIFs or videos. So we'll be seeing examples of this shortly after, but this is just the overview. And yeah, so this class is about making a portfolio website in 2 hours. And part of that is because you only need 2 hours to have a decent portfolio. You can put a lot more effort into it. And I think that when you put more effort into your portfolio site, giving it the bells and whistles, it can definitely reflect well. It shows that you're serious about your site. But you really don't need a fancy, glitzy one with menus and UI and transitions and so on, because they have visual appeal, but they're taking your attention away from the projects and focusing it on the site itself. And that doesn't fulfill the purpose. A recruiter is going to be more frustrated by a site that takes up his time with a 10-minute slow animation scroll when he could have been looking at projects in those days. 10 seconds, not 10 minutes. So simple and minimalist actually works very well for portfolios, especially if your projects can grab the spotlight. The second point here is the hook. So this is where your recruiter has scanned your site. They've seen something in 5 seconds that they like to look at. And this is where they decide to start reading text. Until this point, they haven't even looked at text on your site. But now they look for one strong project. They're looking for just one project on that site, which makes them convinced that, okay, this is worth reading further. They will evaluate this project and judge your abilities and talents based on that. So you should make sure it's one of your best. Text starts to matter here. The recruiter starts to read. And at this stage, the recruiters can spend up to a minute looking at that one project to evaluate it and decide whether it's worth reading further. So which is why every project needs to have very concise text to answer these 3 questions. Again, these are the 3 things the recruiter is coming to your project to know about. What is it? What's the project? Why is it important to you? And by extension, why is it important to the recruiter? And what was your role in the project? Were you a level designer? Were you a producer? What did you do? Notes here is that team projects are especially appealing because they show you can work together with multiple people, which is a very, very valuable soft skill. You wouldn't know the number of people and most of you probably do know, the number of times people show up with strong talents and strong technical skills and then just don't know how to work with other people. If you have a team project in your portfolio, that just shows clearly that you can work with other people and successfully release a game, which is a highly in demand skill. Showing your process is again a good way to show that you know your skills and to show exactly what you contributed. Mentioning awards or acknowledgements, sales, download figures, anything that you can use to hype up your project, to brag about it a bit. That kind of shows why this project is important, why a recruiter should pay attention to it further, and why it's of high quality. And for your third stage, you're reeling it in. Now you've lured them in first, they've got their eye, they've read one strong project, and now they're impressed. And now you have pretty much all the time in the world, because once your recruiter is invested, now they want to read most of it. It's not a chore for them anymore. They're thinking, is this the candidate? Is this the person who I want to hire? And they now, have their attention, and now they want to read more. So here you're trying to show your breadth of different types of projects. Like I can do this project really well, but I can also do this. I can also do this. Within your vertical, the more breadth of work that you show, the more capable and confident you look. You're trying to show consistent quality across all your projects. And you're also looking to show more description and details about your process specifically. So things like progress screenshots, descriptions of how you did it, stuff like that now comes into play. So ultimately, this is pretty much what we're looking for. We'll see a couple of examples in the next section of portfolios that do accomplish this or which fail in some aspects. Before that, any quick questions about this? Anything you're not clear about? Do type it in the chat, and then we'll address it before moving on. So to answer Kyle's question about the projects, how much should be displayed? I have a mix of professional projects worked on, which are add-ons, DLCs for a game, and my personal projects. One of them I am currently developing. So the key point is to A, showcase your best work, and B, showcase the kind of projects which you want to work on or which you want to be hired for. So if you want to be hired for a professional game, then showing examples of work on a professional game are your best option. Personal projects, I would show them if you're really confident about them, or if they're the only thing you have. So your best work, your most relevant work. About how many should be displayed, it depends. I would say 3 is good, because it's more than 3 or 4, it's hard to maintain consistent quality, depending on what kind of games. Michael asks, how professional should the tone be on a portfolio? Should we reflect our personalities in the text, or should we be as professional as the CV? I personally lean towards reflecting personality in the text. It should stay reasonably professional and concise. You can't write an essay on your hobbies, but it's more informal than a CV. You are definitely looking to show some personality. All right, if we have no other questions, I'll be moving over to examples. All right, so if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to share them in the chat. This is an interactive class. It's not meant to be me droning on and on, though I can do that for a while. So again, any questions whatsoever, just ask. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. Let me know if you can see the portfolio website on screen right now. Just type in chat if you can. So is it showing a portfolio website, or is it still showing? Perfect. Thanks, Lola. Do you think we can have access to presentation slides to look back to? Yes, definitely, Kyle. You will be shared a list of documents and links at the end of the class. So I'll paste them in chat, and they will also be available in the Indie Game Academy Discord server, where there are a bunch more resources related to portfolio specifically. So there's some gray rectangle blocking it. I think that is just the chat, maybe. Yeah, no, that's a chat window, I think. That's strange. It shouldn't be covering that. It should be sharing just my application. But yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, in that case, I'll keep the chat window closed and mostly open it up when I see some notifications. Unfortunately, usually I thought when you share the screen is when it covers some things up. But yeah, all right. In which case, I'm just going to keep things minimized like this, and hopefully you will be able to. I will bring the chat out when I actually need it. So yeah, essentially, so this is my portfolio as an example. So here, if you break it down into sections, this has basically an about me section, which is a very short scan thing. Has a picture, a small description of what I do. I like to keep this as small and short as possible. This is not an essay about me, simply because most recruiters are just going to glance at my photo to remember whose portfolio this is, and then scroll down to, ooh, what's this project over here? All right, this is this person's best work, it seems. It shows a video, which is very eye-grabbing, shows instantly what kind of gameplay your game has. On the left, it shows text. It describes what this game is, simple yet intensely engaging platformer. Why it's important? Because it got these reviews, it got rated 4.8, it was nominated for Game of the Year, blah, blah, blah. And it shows what I worked on. So I worked on level and system design, gameplay programming, and more. And then these links are helpful. These links help a recruiter kind of just instantly verify that this game is legit and maybe even play it if they want to later on in the real stage. And similarly, using this template, I have multiple other projects with the same configuration. The autoplay videos are helpful here just because they grab attention and then they essentially show you pretty much everything you need to know about the project in terms of what the gameplay is like. So post this, I do have a couple of jam games here. These are not my best work, but they have received some awards, so I did feel it was worthy to keep them in here. Again, each one of these doesn't take up as much real estate as my major projects, simply because they're just there as an extra. And then here we have section on freelance work, some publications that I've done. And here, after showing my projects, at this point, I can talk more about it. So this is a longer paragraph. At this point, I'm hoping my recruiter is already hooked. So they've been lured by these attractive visuals. They've read at least one project. They read the text through. And now if they're already hooked, then they want to read all of this text. Otherwise, they'll just skip over. So this talks a little bit about me. It talks about my values, some of the things I like about games, what my history in games is. Hopefully humanizes me a bit to the recruiter who's looking at this. And then, of course, description of skills. And finally, importantly, a way to contact me. So there are social bar on top, email on top, email on bottom. As many ways as possible. A recruiter should never be struggling to contact you. There should be emails and contact forms plastered all over the screen. So this in some ways just a short example of some of the principles we discussed about the three-step method, the lure, the hook, and the reel, how those are actually implemented in a portfolio site. Obviously, still lots of things to improve. This read more section over here is meant to have a project breakdown. So a recruiter who is already hooked would click on this to know more about the project and how I did it. But right now, I think it is broken. Yeah. Still work in progress there. Got missing things here. So yeah, any questions about this? Are the ratings reviews for Confirm a widget? No, they're just plain text and icons. Not a widget. Though it would be cool. I definitely advocate for any kind of personalization of your site that improves how it reads. So a live widget of reviews would be good. Why do you include your picture? It's controversial. I do see some people recommending not to include a picture at all, just go straight with your projects. Personally, I think a very small picture with a bit of text next to it makes your portfolio more recognizable. Some people have a bad memory for names. They prefer faces. And if they see your face, they will remember your portfolio as, oh, the one with that face. And that's the reason why I include my portfolio. I also feel it kind of makes the portfolio more relatable. It reminds you that, okay, there are projects here, but these projects are made by this human being with this face. Okay, okay to drop LinkedIn in the chat. Sure, if you do so at the end, I'll probably see them and actually look at them. Right now, there's a whole bunch of questions, so they might get buried in the chat. Towards the end, yeah, would be nice. You could drop your LinkedIn for sure. As a producer, most of my work was scheduling and making sure production pipelines are not clogged. How do I show off managerial skills? If you show the complete game, and you can actually show the complete game with visuals, just like I've showed over here, then talk about what you did. Being a production manager for a game is valid work. It is valid creative work. If you show a really good game and show that I produced this, I contributed to this, then that is pretty valuable. And I think you don't have to show off your spreadsheets necessarily in your process form. If you have another page where you're actively talking about your work, yes, you can show your pipelines, maybe a screenshot of Jira just to show off that this is the software you worked with. But for your primary page, you should definitely show off the game itself. If your technical team has made a really good game and you helped bring them together with your production pipeline, then that is going to be impressive. The videos are autoplay videos. Yeah. What would you say about using a self-portrait digital art instead of a photo? I think it's fine. Anything that shows off you as a personality is fine. I know some people are not comfortable with using photos and sometimes they use digital art. I think it doesn't make much of a difference. It's just personal. Colton says, yes, as a face person myself, pictures are great. Yeah, I think I agree that. So moving on, this was a game design portfolio. And can I maybe hide this? Hide this block because I can't access tabs. Hide floating. Okay. So the next one I want to look at is an art portfolio. So this is a friend of mine, Colleen, and here's her portfolio. This has a slightly different style. Mine is like a single page scroll, but here you have her picture, a little bit about her, where she graduated from, what she does, and then you have different sections of her portfolio. So this is kind of helpful for art, mainly because, or for generalists actually, who want to attempt different roles. It can be confusing if you have a single page portfolio and then stick in multiple different pieces of work from different disciplines, like one where you programmed and one where you did art. It's confusing because a recruiter doesn't know which one to evaluate you on. If they want to hire you as an artist, then they want to see your artwork. They don't want to see your programming work. For them, that is clutter. So this method is pretty helpful. You can divide your portfolio into different sections. So a recruiter who comes to this page will click on what they want to see. So if Colleen is being hired for 2D art, the recruiter would click on 2D art, but they would also keep in mind that, she has 3D art, she does animation too. She's not just a 2D artist, which I think is a good thing. So let's take a look at 3D art first. There we go. So yeah, for 3D artwork, I think this is a great way of showing off 3D work. It's just with a Sketchfab embed right in the website. So this is one of those ways you can kind of spice up your portfolio site in a simple way with embeds like this. So a recruiter will be able to look at all angles of her work as well as see details. So these are process details. These are really nice on a portfolio site because you're not just showing off your work itself. You're not marketing your model, but you're marketing yourself as a person who made this model. And so recruiters want to see your process. Like they want to see things like this. These fancy hinge pieces were initially done in ZBrush and then exported to be retopologized. From there, I did so and so and so. So I'm not even an artist, but I can read this and think, this person knows what they're doing. Clearly, because I can see the high quality art and I read a bit about the process here. There's another bit here. Showing that, okay, this person didn't do indeed ZBrush. This was done with the Polymesh first and then Substance Painter. So stuff like that. And then you have a link here. Once the recruiter is hooked, they click on the link and let it load. Yes. Ta-da, here's more. Once the recruiter is already hooked, now they want to be looking at more of this stuff. They want to know more details. They're reeled in. They want to understand the process. And then screenshots, progress screenshots like this one are great. Just showing things in Blender, things that are not yet fully textured. But especially for artists, I think these kind of progress screenshots show that you know the whole process inside out. They also show more clearly that you haven't just plagiarized the work. It's something you actually made, which hopefully nobody will ever suspect, but it's always good to leave no room for that. So studio art. And now, questions. Gordon Davis, would you suggest multiple portfolios for different specialties verticals? Yes, I would. Either have one portfolio with two separate sections for different verticals, or separate portfolios altogether also works fine. Though what you should avoid doing is like mixing all of your different verticals in a single website, simply because when you're being hired for a specific role, that can make it hard to actually evaluate that. In my portfolio, I do mix design and dev work, but mostly because they all happened on the exact same projects. And pretty much every project I did both design and dev. So that is the exception. So moving on to 2D art. So we do see some interesting examples here. I'd like to ask the class, if you had to look at this portfolio as a recruiter, put your little recruiter hat on and then scan this portfolio, what's one thing that you feel could be done better on this particular screenshot? What feels like it's missing based on the things we discussed in our presentation? Feel free to type in the chat if you have any ideas, any suggestions, any wild guesses as to if you look at this as a recruiter, what feels missing, what feels like it could be improved. Michael says, I think there could be more uniformity to rounded corners, sharp corners, and potentially a way to see more information. Alex says the person. I think, Alex, we saw the person on the homepage. So I think that's good enough. We don't need to see them on every single page. Seeing it in context of a gameplay screenshot would be nice. Maybe a layout change. Lola says more information about the projects. Wayne says, I don't know what I'm looking at. Maybe better format and titling. How pieces are incorporated in game screenshots. Yeah, I think everyone's pretty much got it. If this art is for a game, I want to see the game, not just the art screenshots, because that doesn't give me context. If this is a game artist portfolio, I want to see the game in which these art is actually integrated. So the ideal way to showcase this would simply be, have the game showcased very prominently, and then below that, you showcase the art in these individual art tiles, which you actually did for the project. So I think, yep, full marks to pretty much everyone here. And what you learned from the project, that also is. I think once you've hooked the recruiter on how important the project is, they definitely want to see what you learned. Scrolling down, we do see concept art and client work. I think it's great to include client work in your portfolio. It doesn't just have to be only your own projects. If you get permission from your clients, just feel free to share that. But again, show me more about the project. Don't just paste, like you paste a nice looking axe here. I'm interested as a recruiter. I don't see anything more about it. I scroll. It's great to showcase what project was made for, what the constraints were, what awards are, what was the actual project, how important was it. Details like that would be highly useful. Finally, moving on to animation. So here we have a demo reel. A demo reel is another great way for animators to show work, simply because it's very scannable for a recruiter. You can just play, and then a recruiter will most likely, even if they don't watch the whole thing through, they will click on different spots, look at examples of the work. So it's a fairly skimmable way of looking at a wide range of material within a single short, concise box. So you can move around like this. So I think overall, this is a pretty great way to showcase animation work. Michael says, I guess it's confusing to me because she says she's an environment artist, but has a bunch of non-environmental art showcased. Which is true. I guess if you look at 3D art, for example, I guess this is technically environment art. You have a diorama, which is environment art. And here you have, I guess here are more environments. But it would be nice to have more context for some of these screenshots for sure. Like I see this environment and I'm definitely curious about, what project is it for? What's some of the process, things like that. Yeah, context. Context is key. Context is everything. And so moving on, we can look at a programmer's portfolio next. I think we have time for one more. So here's another friend of mine's portfolio. And here's the home page. And here, again, there is something which I think the class can probably look at this portfolio, this homepage, and tell me what they would improve. What's one thing as a recruiter that you see, or what's one thing that if you were a recruiter that you don't see? What's missing? Yes, something in chat. Yes, no projects off the bat. Very, very bad. If you're a recruiter, please don't make your recruiter search in this menu in the top corner for work over here, because it's sad because there are a lot of good work projects on this particular portfolio, and yeah, you don't want 2 out of 3 recruiters to just search for your work link and then skip it because they don't have that. They have the attention span of a goldfish, and they're just not going to find it. So your project should be bold, front and center. Now, if I click on work, we get these panels over here. So this is a panel-based layout, also fairly popular for showcasing work. I think it's a good way to show your breadth of work. Like it shows a lot of projects at once. My downside would be it's hard to read about specific projects just off the go. For example, if I hover here, you have some text, but it's hard to read the text against the background for me. That's my personal feedback here. So here again, you have a video showcasing, an autoplay video kind of showcasing some of the work. I think as a programmer, along with your published projects, if you don't have that many, it's worth showcasing engine demos like this. For example, this is a rocket demo, which essentially shows that this person can make rockets, can make really nice particle effects, and can customize them using this little menu on the side. And those, I think that's a pretty great way to showcase your skills, even if it's not a finished game, which is finished games are ideal. But if you don't have enough of them, these are pretty good ways to essentially showcase your skill. And once more, I shall turn to the chat to ask what could be added to this or what could be changed to make this a bit more appealing for a recruiter. So if a recruiter's clicked on this, they're already lured, right? Their 5-second attention span has been caught. They now want more of this project. What do you give them? More context, yes. So this just describes what the project is and doesn't describe why it's important to you or what you did. In this case, it's a personal project, so I'm guessing you did everything. But say for a game like this one, it just talks about what the project is. It doesn't talk about, it needs to give more context. And that context is really important because recruiters want to know context. They want you to brag. It's not the time for you to be modest, right? This is the time for you to pull out all the stops and say, this is my amazing project. And that's what they want to hear. You don't have to be too shy about that. And I think Wayne brings up a really great point, more focus. There's a large quantity of games here, but you really don't want to be playing Russian roulette with your recruiter because it's a gamble, right? If your recruiter scrolls down a bit and then clicks on this prototype, suddenly they're not looking at your best work anymore. You don't really want to risk that. It would be sad to have a recruiter, pick a project right in the back, maybe something you did 3 years ago, and then conclude that is your present skill level, and then dismiss your portfolio on that basis. So I'm an advocate for just removing any projects which are not your best quality or your best work. Or if you have to keep them, put them in a separate section. So make sure they are separately displayed, either maybe in a separate page, not confused with your primary projects. A link to play the game, yes. That's a great point, Jeremy. I would, if your game is playable on a storefront, or even if it has a storefront, like a Steam page, anywhere where you can actually get your hands on it, do link it. I find that pretty useful. Like, I think the majority of recruiters may not actually play your game. They don't have the time. But there have been times when I've applied for a job and then I get a call back saying, we picked up a different candidate, but I really, really enjoyed playing your game. I had a ton of fun playing this thing. Kudos. So that tells me that recruiters, even if they don't pick your portfolio, I mean, even if you have hooked them and if they are in the reeling stage, that is a stage where they might actually click on your browser playable and just play your game together with you. I know that when I hire people, I do try to play their games, especially if they're available on browser. Haley asked, should the recruiter be able to see your name on all screens on a portfolio? Ideally, yeah. Just because, again, think of a recruiter with the attention span of a goldfish, busy juggling a dozen things at once. If your name is right there, it just makes it very easy to associate your name and your projects and prevents them from losing track of that. Lola says it's sort of overstimulating. There's no importance given to the important projects. Agreed. So that's one reason why I'm not a big fan of the panel layout, just because it throws a bunch of things at you, but it doesn't order your projects in a specific way. Your recruiter is not, you can't guarantee your recruiter clicks the top link. They could click anything, which is the risk that you're running. Do you feel it's worth making portfolios mobile browser friendly? Yes, 100% yes. It's highly likely your recruiter, is actually just, they're between on their commute or they're heading to lunch and they just open their phone and they want to see your portfolio there. QR code is great. And your portfolio should be viewable on the go. In the second section of today, we will be taking a look at that. So here we are. So here we have taken a look at this one. Let's see what else we got. So I did, these are basically junior portfolios that I've been looking at so far. I do want to showcase another couple of senior portfolios just because layout lessons you can learn from them. So this one has a very minimal layout, a short about, a picture. The thing I like most about this person's portfolio is their development process page. So if a recruiter is already hooked, if they look at this image, they read this stuff, they see, okay, this project is great. It's got a good Steam rating. It's made in 18 months. And they click the development process page. So this is a great example of a deep dive into how this person made the project. So this person talks about, Dean talks about project goals, the creative process, how the team came up with the idea, some early sketches like this, world building. If it shows exactly how you built up this project and how you did whichever your part of the work on it was, if it's appealing enough, they will keep reading. So the more material you have, the better it is. I think process like this shows a lot about how it's like to work with you as a person. If I look at this portfolio, I instantly think, this person is organized, creative, they're able to describe their work very well. I'd like to work with this person. So that's one example. To pick another one. So usually I am not a fan of the gallery layout, which is essentially this thing over here. You can see these small arrows on the side. So you click on the arrows and then you get the next project, like a sliding gallery. The reason I'm not a fan is simply because oftentimes websites are designed in such a way that it's very hard to find these arrows. And a recruiter is likely to scroll down instead, missing the arrow, skipping half your projects, and just scrolling to the bottom of the page and thinking, oh, that's it. The exception here is that there's nowhere to scroll down. So that's an advantage. You're keeping your recruiter's attention here. You have a bunch of these image links at the bottom, so you can skip to projects. I think the combination of these two makes this a valid layout for a portfolio. And personally, I really like the description. I like how the key points of the description are highlighted in bold. So a recruiter who is lured but not hooked is probably just going to read these bullet points to see, okay, what did this person do? And then if they are hooked, then they will probably read through all the details of this description of the project. So highlighting certain areas of text, the important aspects of text can be pretty useful. So Kyle asks, would you advise to make sure that the game summary is good enough on the project and then have the development stages later on? Yes. So again, we're breaking it down into stages. Your front page should have images, visuals, GIFs, videos to lure them. It should also have text that summarizes the 3 key points, which are what is the game, why is it important, and what you did on it. Your summary shouldn't have anything more than this. And then afterwards, if they're interested, if they're hooked, then you have your development process. And that's when you can talk about your game as much as you like, show off everything about it, show off your entire process, what you were eating for breakfast on the first day you thought of the project. That's fine, as long as it's the first 2 stages are handled first. Tommy says, carousels are often not accessible beyond discoverability either. Yeah, I think so too. It's a free scrolling website is probably going to be more accessible even to people who have accessibility limitations because they don't require clicks. So essentially, these are the things I wanted to talk about. Before we break for our midway break, any questions? Anything that wasn't clear about these portfolios? Something that nagging it out? Wild idea. Alex says, thanks a lot. Michael asks, how often should we review, update our portfolio? As often as possible. I do it. Okay, I'm kind of cheating here. I do it every three or 4 weeks, but recently I haven't done it for a couple of months, so I'm slacking there. Each time I think I should update my portfolio before the class, and then I don't have the time. But ideally, yeah, 4 to 5 weeks is a good time to. It's also good to make your portfolio easy to update. If your portfolio website is very complex and requires a lot of effort every time you have to change it, it doesn't fulfill its purpose. Because then it's going to be a very painful job to update it, which means you are not going to want to update it, which means it's going to be out of date. I would highly recommend having an easy to update site, even if it's minimal, just because you'll be more motivated to just keep updating it when keep it alive where possible. If you're a web developer and that's your literal job, then make it as complex as you like. But for most others who are not web dev savvy, minimalism is your friend. Lola asks, is it okay to be putting work in progress on our portfolios? For example, concept art for a game that isn't done. Yes, I do that all the time. So for example, over here, this game is work in progress. My studio has not yet allowed me to talk about it in too much detail. So I can't really describe it beyond the screenshot. I can't talk about it too much. That changed 2 weeks ago. The Steam page came out. I haven't updated my portfolio. But 2 weeks prior to this, it was valid. That I couldn't talk much about it, but I gave a little tantalizing screenshot. I mentioned this is who I'm working with. And I think it's fine. Portfolios, work in progress is fine. However, notice that I didn't put this first. My completed published games come first. The concept pages or teasers or things that aren't yet done come last. So you ideally shouldn't lead with concept art unless you are a concept artist. Kyle says, I'm struggling to update my portfolio on Wix. I'm learning its features and finding a way to make my life easier. Yeah, I think Wix is a rabbit hole. Pretty much any kind of website host is a rabbit hole. It's good to learn more and more about it to improve your site. But if you're having trouble updating your portfolio on the regular, it might be a sign that you have to minimalize it even further. Just anything that feels tough to update, just leave it out. And we'll be covering some ways to make it easy to update in the second section. So, all right, I think we are good on time. I'm going to take a short 5-minute health and exercise break, just get the blood pumping again. And once I'm back, we will start actually making one with Wix, keeping these things in mind. You guys can use this 5 minutes to download the links, which I posted in the beginning. I'm going to post them again. Scroll all the way up. And there we go. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. And yeah, see you soon. All right. Hello, folks. Back. Hope everyone is still here. All right. Yes, thanks for the LinkedIn link, Colton. I will save that. And all righty. So hope all of you have access now. Yeah, so with this stage, we'll be starting off with actually building a portfolio in Wix. So it's extremely simple. We'll be making something very minimal, but which actually functions as a portfolio site. And just to show you guys how fast it can be done. And hopefully to encourage people to not postpone it for too long. So over here, I'd ask you to navigate first, having downloaded the materials, to navigate. Well, before that, maybe it's good to talk about what kind of material you need for portfolio. So first point is if you've downloaded the zip file, opened it up, you'll probably see a bunch of material there. Essentially, today we'll be building a site for an imaginary candidate level designer who's looking to make a portfolio. And essentially these materials available are the ones that she's made for her games. So key things that we've seen already that we need are screenshots of some kind, videos of some kind, descriptions of your game, links to your game, as well as some information about you. And this much is pretty much enough to get your portfolio started. There are a lot of different options for portfolios. You have Wix, Card, WordPress, Google Sites. So I would say do your research. This time we'll be using Wix, but a lot of the skills that we're going to be using are transferable. It's less about the specific software and more about the principles of designing a portfolio that can appeal to a recruiter. So feel free to explore options. For taking screenshots and videos, of course, I prefer OBS, which is open source broadcasting software. I just open my game, open OBS, do some screen recording, trim the video a bit, and then I have my screen capture videos. And I usually cut and paste those together to make shorter videos, since you want to kind of highlight the key gameplay moments. So I just put them in a video editor, like Microsoft. I think Windows comes with one. So I just put them in, chop them up into small 5-second sections, and then put the best ones together to make like a sort of a show reel of the best moments of this game. And that's what I essentially use on my site. So now that you've had a chance to get familiar with the materials, this is a follow along class. So basically, while I'm doing this on Zoom, you guys can actually make the same thing that I'm doing on your browsers, so that what I'm talking about essentially becomes a learned reality. So I would say first, navigate to Wix and set up an account for the first time. So it'll ask for your email address, probably have to set a password or something. And eventually you should be navigating to this site that you see here, which is my sites, this page. So in case anyone's having trouble creating an account, just let me know in chat. I'm going to wait for 3 or 4 minutes and then see. All right. So once you're done signing up for an account and once you have a Wix account, just type in the chat so I can kind of, once enough people have made an account, once I feel like everyone has made an account, I will see. So as soon as you've made your account, or if you already have an account, just type in the chat that you have done. All right, Lola's made one. Alex has. All good. Cool. I'm gonna wait for another minute and then. All right. So I'm going to get started. Let me know in case I'm proceeding too fast and I can slow down. So once you reach this page, My Sites, you will want to create a new site over here in the top right. And this will take you to this thing. I'm creating a portfolio. You can pick what you like. Game design portfolio is what I'm picking to match our candidate. And here you can enter this person's website name. Here I'm going to name it. I have to add the 2 at the end because I already have one from the last class. Once you hit a name, hit next. Yeah. So I'm going to, this will be a very minimalist portfolio. So I'm going to remove everything that I can. I would remove this too if I could, but yeah. basically uncheck everything that Wix tries to foist on you here, and then go to next. Okay, so now once you have this page, you can now start designing your site and then select begin with the template. So there are a bunch of highly advanced templates over here, things that look really good off the bat. I would say feel free to explore them down the line. They can be a great way to kind of have a jump off point for your portfolio. However, for this exercise, we are going to go over here to blank templates in the top right. And these are essentially minimalist templates which we'll be using to start with. I am going to pick this one, the strip header layout, and click edit. If my slightly slow internet makes it take a while to set up, but hopefully everybody has reached this page, which is the Wix editor. I don't want to let AI write my site content. I have enough AI elsewhere. Thank you. All right. So yeah, so here's essentially what you start off with. The first thing I'm going to do is go to pages, portfolio, and manage pages here at the bottom. They change the layout every once in a while. Then what I'm going to do is actually delete these and uninstall the portfolio app. Mainly because a minimalist site like the one we're making right now doesn't need a very specialized responsive portfolio content page and so on. Minimize the chat. So we're just going to be starting with the basics, which is the home page. I'm actually even going to go ahead and delete all the other pages, because this will be a one-page portfolio, simplicity's sake, and pretty much everything we need is just a home page. Alrighty. So the first thing that we will require is your about section. So you can click on things, edit them. I'm just going to call this here's a fictional protagonist. I'm going to decrease the font size. Add a subtitle. Then I'm probably going to shrink this a bit. You don't need it to be that big. There we go. And for images, I think your zip file should contain a stock image that I threw in there. Let's see if I still have it. Okay, so it looks like Zoom, if I bring any other window, it just obscures things, which is bad. But yeah, I'm going to have to find that. Did I not share the image? Doesn't entirely. Give me just a second. I can drag and drop. Sorry for the wait. All right. So did this stock image get included with everybody's zip files, or are they missing it? Are any of you missing it? In case you don't have it, just let me know and I can paste the link to it. I think it's missing. Yeah, I think it was missing last time and I forgot to update it. So you can use pretty much any image you want. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to link this so it's easy for you to find something. All right, share. Anyone? You share, copy link, and okay, you should be able to download it from this. So once you have the image, you will see that Wix has these little grid lines over here. And if you try to drag anything outside of the grid lines, it will complain saying you dragged an object outside the grid lines. Essentially, this has to do with resizing. So websites need to work on different screens. Some people have tiny screens, some people have big ones. And these grid lines essentially showcase the minimum, the area within which things have to stay for it to render properly on every single screen. So I would advise not to put things outside the grid lines. The first thing I will do is change my column layout though. I'm going to take this column, hit layout over here after clicking on it. I'm going to align content to the right. Then I will click the column on the right. Go to layout here, and then align content to the left. Having done that, I can now resize my image to make it fit here a bit better. Something like this. The other thing you can do with images, there are quite a few options, but you can add a frame to them. So I think that's in design. And then I'm going to add a little circle frame. And then maybe I will crop it over here. So that lets me highlight, oops, right. Highlight just the parts of it that I want. That's odd. Why is it? Yeah, I used this for a while, but Wix always has a way to surprise me. For some reason it's shape crop. Does that work? No, it still doesn't work. Whatever. Let me just re-upload that. But in the interest of time, I'm probably just going to crop it just to show relevant areas. But there is definitely a way to crop it and put it in the frame. Oh, come on. Not again. Yeah, seems like the crop function isn't doing what it's. Yeah, it's bugged. But in any case, hopefully you are not having the same problem. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, this will be recorded afterwards, so I think you should get an access to that. Yeah. Alrighty then. Yeah, so let me. Okay, ideally, you should be able to crop this, but for now, I'm just going to get rid of here. And we'll look at beautifying it more a bit later. So I'm resizing it just to match the grid lines. So it lines up nicely there. And then on the right, one thing we can do is decide what to write here. So what do you write about this person? So if you notice, look in your materials, you should have some facts about our mysterious character, Lavelle designer. And based on that, well, let me know what you think we should write here. So essentially, your about section pretty much just describe who you are, what you do, what your values are in one sentence. It's needs to be really, really small. Again, you're not trying to focus your recruiter's attention on this specifically. They're going to just glance at it and move on. So no long paragraphs with lots of text. Um, so let me just share this real quick. There we go. Yep. So if you guys should have access to this little thing over here, I'd like to see some suggestions in the chat for what facts, which of these facts over here are most relevant to put in your about section. Pick 3. Alex says name, skills, and education, maybe location. Yeah, I think that's a good option. So yeah, name, you got skills, where's education, ideal role, name, skills, ideal role, work experience. Yeah, I think these are all great suggestions. In terms of skills, which skills? Which skill would be the most important to highlight in the about section? Based on the information. Yes, depends on what the goal is, and Mattia has it. Skills relevant to the ideal role. So yeah, I think since this person's ideal role is junior level designer, you would want to highlight the fact that you are a level designer. And these are good to put later on in your portfolio, but don't fill your about section with it. I would say just focus, say that I am a level designer, I do level design. Education is great. In this particular case, the degree is unrelated, so I might not necessarily mention it. Location is great. And work experience is also a good thing. It can, I would say work experience can probably come down the line a little bit later. But yeah, so coming back to it, I might just write, hi. Maybe I'm that can actually come here. Did I lose that text? Add elements, paragraph text here. So let's see. I'm a level designer based in location, that is and the next thing that you guys talked about was work experience, I think. So we've mentioned a specialty, we mentioned her location, her name is there, past projects or work experience. So something like mm, I'm not sure quite what to do here. Let me refer to my, I think I have a sample here. Yeah, I think these can be a bit tricky because I don't want to add too much text here. I'm not sure how to incorporate these facts. In other facts, what would you guys add from these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I think part of the about, the most important things to add might be values here. So experience is great, probably. So the fact that you have 3 years of hobby experience is good. Values are also good. I enjoy making them tell a story with their environment. So what I'd probably do, for lack of more time, would be we have here making games that tell a story with their environment. This is there. Even this could be a little long. I might even just remove the design games as a hobby for 3 years because you could show that in your resume. You don't need to show it over here. But for our present purposes, I think this works out. So over here, we can probably also do a couple of things, but we'll get there. So key point in Wix, the way things are managed is Wix works in things called strips. So strips are your big horizontal sections. You stack strips on top of each other to make sections within your website. So with this little handle over here, I can just change my section height and width. Yeah, I can make my strip bigger or smaller. Something like this works for me. Why is this? The strip is small, but the section is big. Not sure why this is so misaligned. I know something. Perfect. Yeah, this one. So if I want to add more content, I'm essentially just going to add a new section, which I can do by add section. Here, I'm probably just going to add a blank section. Shrink it to this. And then let's add a strip. So add elements, strip, classic. Then oops, yeah, shrink it a bit. Change the color to match one of the theme colors. This one. And then add some text, maybe heading text. So this will be our project section. Just center it. And yeah. And now we can add another section by clicking outside here, add section, blank section. There. So this will be our first project. You can also name your sections over here. We'll call this project header. Just for easier reference, it comes in. So here, this one will be project 1. There. All right, so you got the about, you got your project's header, and now we're ready to add our first project. So first thing I'm going to do is to once again add a strip. What do I have to do? I think so. Strip, white one, attach to section, shrink the section to fit that. There we go. Then what I'm going to do is move to layout and add a column. So the benefits of columns here are just that columns help Wix organize the site better and render that site better on different screen resolutions, especially mobile. So without columns, your mobile site tends to be a bit all over the place. With columns, things can stack, and basically what you see side to side on PC will be top to bottom on mobile because of the thinner screen on portrait mode. So over here on column, I'm also going to change my columns layouts so that they align towards the center. So the left column aligns to the right column aligns to the left. And then we're good. Keep in mind the grid lines here. Don't drag elements outside the grid line because then on some screens, those elements may not actually be rendered properly. So for projects now, I am going to upload the video. So the first project can probably be, let's see what we have in our section. I believe it is John Orange's, Dave Orange's Spooky Stroll. Wonderful, we have a title. So the first thing I'm going to do is just bring in the lure, which is the video. Moving over, I should probably keep that folder downloaded. I have downloaded it. Second. So I think last class I had the material very handy, but this time. All right, just excuse me for 1 second. All right, we have, you know what? I'm actually just going to kill the screen share and share my screen for the change. Thanks for attending, Lola, and hope you check out the recording later. Share screen. Okay, so the screen should be shareable now. Sorry for the clutter. So to start off with Dave Orange's Spooky Stroll, we have gameplay and this gameplay video over here. I should be able to drag that straight to Wix. Maybe not. Add elements. Yes, here's the one. So in add elements, video and music, I will add a single video player. So this, I can resize this to fit my column, then change video. And this opens this little dialog here. where I can upload my video. So I'm going to upload this. Right. While this video uploads extremely slowly, any other questions that you guys have so far? We haven't covered much so far. All right, we're done. There we go. Okay, so we've got our video player set up. And now on the right, we can work on adding some text. So here's the text where you essentially talk about what the game is. Again, I'd probably ask, so based on the stuff that we have here in description, Dave Orange's stroll. Let me open it up. I'm going to hide my meeting. So based on these key facts about the game, what do you think is worth putting in a description? Keeping in mind our 3 points, which are what the game is about, why it's important, and what you did in the game. To start off with talking about, let's talk about what the game is. So essentially, we will be moving. There should be a way to open this in Chrome. Perfect. This is what I wanted. All right. So essentially, I would probably describe the gameplay as the first description, since that's what people are looking at. Place fifth, took a month, and 3D game. Yep, I think those are great options. Place fifth and took a month are showing the second point. Why is this project important to you? It's important because it took a month of your time. It's important because it won an award in a game jam. So these are things to definitely talk about. I'm going to, where am I? Can I just hide my, yeah. Did I miss something? Where's my site? Hang on, let me sort this out. Okay, sorry for that. We're back. Turns out if you drag a PDF into Google Chrome, it replaces the window which you already have. Okay, so we're back. So for describing it, first, I would probably focus on a little bit of the gameplay. So essentially try to navigate a haunted mansion without getting caught by enemies in this 3D top-down stealth game. Right? So maybe let's pick that. Right. Now let's talk about, so this covers the first point, right? What is this game? Now to cover our second point, which is why is this game important? So we got a great thing in the chat, which is Alex, yeah, it plays fifth, took a month. So something like this game. So game was made in a month for the spooky September jam, where it placed fifth overall. And what else do we have about it? Yeah, I think this is pretty covers pretty much what we want to talk about. And the fact that it's published on itch.io, yeah, we'll add a button for that. So we have what the game is, why it's important. Final section is what did you do? So this is pretty important overall because I see a lot of people make portfolios. They add their gameplay video, they talk about the game, but they don't specify what they did in it. So this is not very useful to recruiter because they don't know if did you make the entire game? Did you make just one section of it? And sometimes it can even come across as you trying to take credit um, for a game that the entire team made by not specifying exactly what you made. So this part is pretty important. Over here, I'm just going to focus on the key aspects here. So given that this person is looking to be a level designer, which of these points would you feel is the most important to add? Obviously, design the levels, um, placed enemies and design the patrol paths. These are strong candidates to add. So um, can I make this into right? Helped come up with the concept and helped design enemies and abilities. So, and finally, play tested the game and improved it with feedback, which is always a good thing to say for design. So here we have it. So this is pretty much all the text that you need. Remember, this is still in the stage we are still trying to hook the recruiter. So over here, we are essentially talking just about what the game is, why it's important, and what you did. And this is essentially pretty much all the content you need. If you have a more detailed breakdown, for example, I would probably put that here. Let me expand this to make best use of the space available. Okay. So perfect. So here I might add buttons to link to other places. So add elements, button. Let's add a little themed button over here. So this button, you can choose what it displays. So here I'm going to say read more. So this would be where you put your process screenshots, which we probably won't be doing today. But if you have more details about the process of the game, things that you want to add, talk about the game to a recruiter who's already been hooked, you would add them in a separate page that links to this button. And on the other column, I have a button here that basically says this one is published on itch.io. So I can link to it to a playable. So play in browser. And then this, you can set the link over here, this option here, and I can enter my link to itch.io and have it playable right over here. So once you have this one project section complete, essentially the good thing you can do here is you can actually duplicate this. So if I head over to quick edit, it zooms out, and then I can look at sections one by one. So when I select this, I right click. Can I right click? Perhaps this is possible without quick edit. Section, right click, duplicate. That's what we want. And now we have a new project section below here. And we can now replace this with stuff from our next project. So in the video player, I would change the video and upload. Have to change it. Upload media. And I'm going to upload the navigator next. So I'm there. So this replaces the video with doesn't seem to be showing up, but once I preview, it will probably show up. And over here, we change the text, of course. Moving over to the chat. Maybe type out a description based on these key facts. What do you think I could write over here? Let me see. Essentially, what the game is about. So 2D side-scrolling platformer set in the jungle. I'm probably going to talk about the gameplay. So once again, I will talk about what's important about it. The key facts is that it was won the level 2 programs judging awards. That's something worth putting there. And it was made in a month and published on itch.io or Google Play. It's try to avoid copyright here. I'm speeding through this just for the sake of time. But you get the picture. Depending on your game, you can do this appropriately. Likewise, what you did is essentially the most important thing is the fact that you design the level here somewhere. Yes, wrote the story and designed the level. So, well, that's it. And something like this. Once more, we have this. Actually, shrink this. Sorry. So essentially, we already have a pretty much a working website. We have an about, we have 2 projects. And the great thing about Wix is if you go to the quick edit section, these new sections, this should have been a new section, which I forgot to do. But the idea is that if you select not the strip, but the section itself, and then duplicate it, for example. No, that's not the section I want to duplicate. I want to duplicate project 1. And I duplicate project 1. It's duplicating the strip, which I don't want to do. Can I duplicate the whole project? Yes, I can. Sorry for the wait there. There's definitely a way to duplicate the project. For now, I think I can just do it by adding some extra space. That does it. All right. Anyway, the point I wanted to showcase was simply that if you have multiple projects and each project in a separate section, then what you can do is simply change the order of the sections by clicking on a section. And then you have the option to move section up, move section down. If I move section up, then these two essentially switch places. So this is pretty great for keeping your portfolio well updated. You can just, anytime you want to make a new project, just select your project section and duplicate it. You have all the fields set up, just change the video, change things on the side. And by reordering the sections with these buttons over here, you can just move sections up and down, and therefore change the organization and the order of your projects as required. And yes, now I figured it out finally. If you select the project here, the options are over here. So to duplicate it, I would have selected this section, and then I have the menu over here, more action, then I have duplicate or delete, whichever I want to. Final pieces to add to this. I think one of the most important is contact and header. So typically, your portfolio needs to have, well, a title, obviously, level design. I'm going to drag this up to the top. So a recruiter, when they look at your portfolio, they now need a way to contact you, which is basically where I would say put your contact information everywhere you can, right? You can go ahead and add an email address fairly simply by adding text, which is dot theoretical address over here. And then add a You can add images and icons from over here. So over here, explore images free from Wix. So over here in this media file setup, you can then, if I want an email icon, for example, email filter by vector art. And this gives me a bunch of nice, neat little icons available for free, which I can then add to the page. Just going to resize this. And then probably just fix this over here. Yeah, basically this. So you have your email address up on top. Another thing to add is basically a socials bar. So you can see this social bar over here. This on the side, you set your social links here. Who uses Facebook? I'm probably just going to put LinkedIn. You can replace the icon with LinkedIn's icon. Yep, there we go. So this, and then you can change the link obviously to a LinkedIn link. And this gives you essentially a handy little bar on the side for all your socials. You can add one at the top as well. I think it should be social bar. Drag it in here. So you'd obviously take more time to set up your links. Don't link your TikTok or your, keep it professional. Typically just whichever social media site you are most active on in a game development capacity goes here. Finally, at the bottom, what I would add would be a contact form. Contact, this one. And here would essentially be all the details that I need about. Don't need this, don't need this. Key thing on your, remember that your portfolio is public. Don't add your personal address. Don't add your personal phone number. You should just have your business email. No social bar. So I would say just make sure your contact is basically all over the place. A recruiter should never be struggling to reach out to you. So in the interest of time, given that we're almost out of time, I'm just going to perhaps showcase what the finished site looks like. Let me know if you can see this, but essentially your projects the video will autoplay as soon as you get here. You have these on the side. Video autoplays. Video autoplays. A contact form, better contact form probably. So you can probably find a template for this with your email, social links, and so on. Another important part of this is essentially making sure your project looks good on mobile. Like someone mentioned in the chat earlier. Over here, you have the option to switch to mobile. And that shows you the mobile version of your site. Obviously, right now you can see it has a lot of empty space. A lot of things aren't aligned properly. The columns have helped a little bit. You can see how the text now shows above the video instead of next to it, which would be really hard to read in mobile. The good news is whatever changes you make to the mobile version of your site, essentially don't carry over to the desktop version. So you can feel free to edit anything here. For example, here, I would definitely want to take this column and shrink it a bit. Do that. Yes. There, I can shrink it a bit like this. Similarly, here, there's a lot of extra space. Shrink it. Essentially, there are a couple of small changes you can make over here, which essentially makes your mobile layout a lot better. Thank you so much for attending, Julie. And yeah, we'll be wrapping up now. I think we're out of time. Yep. So essentially, it should take you probably a little bit more time than this. You will want to change your images here, prettify it up a bit, but it is entirely doable to make a portfolio like this in about 1 to 2 hours. I made the example one in less than 2 hours. And it's just a really great starting point to just leap off into your professional journey. I will be sharing a resource sheet. I think we have this resource sheet over here. So this has my portfolio references. Another important thing to talk about is feedback sources. So portfolios are a living document. You need to keep updating them often and iterate on feedback from the community. So a great thing to do is just to, once you make your portfolio, share it with someone more experienced, someone who can give feedback on it. There are a couple of good places to get feedback. The Indie Game Academy Discord is a great place. I'm available there. So in case you make your own portfolio, feel free to post it there. I can give feedback. The Work with Indies Discord is another really great one. They have dedicated feedback for portfolios, resumes, career questions. Definitely recommend this Discord link over here. And I will be sharing this document shortly. Screen recording tools, OBS is usually pretty much all I need, but Windows also comes with the default screen recorder with the Xbox Game Bar. You typically need some video editing tools, and here's a list of platforms. So yep, I will probably just stop the screen share and then share this document over here. I will also include my slideshow. I think I can do that. Yes, copy link. Yep, it's done. Now I can share this. So the link will be shared here in the chat. And these resources, as well as a few more, are also available on the Indie Game Academy Discord server. So do join if you have the time, and you can get reviews on your stuff as well. So for homework for you guys, I would say try to make a portfolio of your own using the exact same method we have here. It should take you less than 2 hours at most to record some videos, some screenshots, a couple of the other things, and then go ahead and add them in a simple minimalist portfolio. If you're on the Indie Game Academy Discord, share it over there, and I'll be happy to give some feedback. So yep, that pretty much concludes our class today. We're just a couple of minutes over time. Appreciate you guys if you're in the Eastern time zone staying up for this. And I am open for any final questions you guys have, in case you have questions about Wix, how to make a site, any follow-up questions. Thanks a lot, Kim. Yeah, I'm glad you feel more confident for approaching Wix. And yeah, as always, if you reach out to me, I'm available for any help or tips you might need. Thank you, Zach. So yep, the resources are there in the chat, and looking forward to seeing your completed portfolios. And okay, thanks for the LinkedIn. I will check that out. Yep, have a good night, everyone. I think it should be over to Willem, but thanks, Haley. Yep, looking forward to hearing from you guys if in case you have any portfolio to showcase.